Hello guys, this is IPTech here and I'm back with another video, and this video will be sort of a follow-up to my previous video, which was the top 5 GPUs for the money, but this time I'll be doing the top 5 CPUs. So these are the top 5 best CPUs that you can get right now for the money. And let's start off the list with an AMD CPU. This is the Athlon X4 860K. So this is a very low-end quad-core CPU from AMD, and it's a very good budget-oriented CPU. I've used it in many of my builds that are 400 to 500 pounds, and it's going to give you very good performance. You won't be able to do any video rendering or anything like that because it's very low end, but it's very good for gaming. Games don't require that many cores, so 4 cores is more than enough. And you won't be able to use, paired with the right graphics card, it should not bottleneck any. And is overclockable, so it's pretty good overclocker. You can get that with a decent CPU cooler over 4 GHz easily, and it's an overall good CPU. Next, another AMD CPU, which is what I'd most recommend for a mid-range build. It's the FX 6300. So it's a very well priced 6-core processor that's clocked at 3.5 GHz, but it turbos up to 4.1, and it's very overclockable as well. If you're looking for a 6-core processor that could do some light video editing, this is the one. Should have no problem gaming, even with a higher end graphics card. The bottleneck should be pretty minimal, and for the money it's one of the best ones right now. Next, the next one is an AMD as well. It's the one I'm using personally, my own PC. It's the AMD's FX 8320. So this is a 8-core processor, which is very good at doing editing. Basically, I do it to render all my videos, and it's very good for the price. It renders pretty well. It's very cheap, much cheaper than the equivalent Intel processor. That's good for rendering and video editing. In terms of gaming, it's not as good as the Intels, but I don't do that much gaming. So if you're not into super high-end gaming, then this is perfect and runs all games perfectly fine. Paired with a nice GPU, because CPU doesn't affect gaming as much as the GPU does, and it only depends on the game. If the game is super CPU intensive, then this could struggle compared to an similar Intel processor. But if you're doing gaming and video editing and you have a strict budget, this is the one I would suggest getting. I would recommend that. So I'm using it at the moment, so I can recommend that. It's very good performance. So on the Intel side, we have the i5 4460, which is a quad-core CPU, clocked at 3.2 GHz, and it's not an 8K version, so you can't overclock this CPU, but it's a very good CPU in terms of gaming performance. This probably outperform even the 8-core 8320, as its single-threaded performance is much greater, and this is what the games actually take advantage of mostly. If you're just doing gaming and you have the extra budget, then I would suggest getting an Intel build, since it can be more power efficient. For this one, it's not overclockable, so you don't have to worry about temperatures. It is pretty power efficient. It's Haswell, so you don't need to get an aftermarket CPU cooler. You could stick with the stock one, which will be perfectly fine. And it's overall very good CPU for the money in terms of Intel. I would recommend it. And the next Intel one I have is the 4690K. So this is the overclockable version, so a little bit more expensive, and its performance is a bit better than the 4460, and it's overclockable, which means you can seriously overclock it, and because it's Haswell, it's pretty power efficient, so you can overclock it pretty high. It should be easily over 4 GHz, and with a decent CPU cooler, and the performance will be should beat out the 8320 and the 4460 by quite a lot. It's only a 4-core, so it's not hyper threaded like the i7, but if you're just doing gaming, this is fine. Again, if you want to do some live video editing, this is probably it's not the best CPU to get for that. If you want to do live editing, you could save some money and get the 8-core, which is going to be better, or you can go with the i7, which is more expensive. It's got 4 cores, but hyper-threaded, meaning it's got virtually 8 cores, which should give you the same or better rendering performance than the A325, the FX A320. And this is the top 5 CPUs, but I do have some honorable mentions, like on the more high end we have the i7-5820K, which is a 6-core hyper-threaded CPU clocked to 3.3 GHz, and which is very overclockable as well. It's on the socket 2011 V3, so motherboards and RAM are a bit more expensive, so it does require DDR4 RAM and the LGA socket 2011 V3, so the X99 boards, which are more expensive. So if you're going for high-end build, but you still have a set budget, then this is the best one. It's 6-core and hyper-threaded, meaning you have virtually 12 cores, which is will be very good for rendering videos and playing games as well. Should have no problem playing games, which with a very good GPU, which for this CPU the one I would recommend is like at least a 980 or 980 Ti. That would be perfect graphics card for this, paired with this CPU. And another honorable mention is the Pentium G3258. This is another, it's on the lower end, and it's comparable to the 860K in terms of performance. They're pretty similar, and then the similar price range, but the difference is this is a dual core CPU, no hyper-threaded, but it's unlocked, so you can overclock it easily above the 860K, and when overclocked it does edge out the 860K a little bit, but it's only a dual core, so some games, newer games, do have a minimum requirement 4 cores, so some of them don't actually run on dual cores, so you have to keep that in mind. That's why I put the 860K in the top 5 and not the Pentium, just for that reason. But if you want to take the risks, then you can go with the Pentium, and it's a little bit cheaper, so you can save a little bit of money. And this is it for my top 5 CPUs for 2015, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, make sure you click the thumbs up button below, as it does help, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.